So this is our fourth week in EDAV 427, and what we did this week was watch the video on the origins of authentic pedagogy. With that, it was an approach to progressivism, and some of the influences on education were Rousseau. He was a French philosopher that stated, "Teach a scholar to observe the phenomenon of nature, you will soon rouse his curiosity." He believed that students should learn for themselves. He wanted people to think for themselves. Maria Montessori, she was the creator of many Montessori schools starting in Rome. She used building blocks and wooden objects in order to teach. And then you have John Dewey. He was a philosopher and an educator. He believed in experimental education. He believed that if you were a girl, that you would be sewing in the future, and that's all you needed to learn how to do, was do what you would end up doing as a career. And boys would be, let's say, in agriculture, so they would be farming, or they would be building things, learning how to do a trade. So that was similar to today's VOTEC centers or a community college where you take tech classes. A.S. Neal created the Summerhill School in England. He basically thought that students should be allowed to go to school if they wanted to. Let the student decide, and it did work out somewhat, because the students would have ended up getting bored and want to go to school. Also, Rabindranath Tagore, he was from India, and he sent his son to the University of Illinois. He wanted to build alternative system of education. He said, "The child's life is subjected to the education factory, lifeless, colorless, dissociated from the content of the universe within bare white walls, staring like the eyeballs of the dead." He wanted people to take delight in learning. The second one was the part one of analyzing authentic pedagogy. You have architectonic, which is reconfigured space. Instead of desks lined up in a row, you would have a table with chairs around them, and the students would interact. Then you had discursive, which I think of discussion because it's student-to-student interaction. The classrooms are a little bit noisier in that setting. Intersubjective is learner-centered activities, inquiry learning. Socioculture is increasing recognition of differences, where you've got people from all over the world in one classroom, and the students are actually learning by being around those other students. Analyzing authentic pedagogy part 2 had proprietary, and that was more interactive, and you're sharing your work. That's where, say, the individual student had their work posted up on the wall, sharing with everybody. Then you've got epistemological, and that's activities. You're talking about research, field trips, projects, science experiments, which most of us today actually think that you learn more doing that. I know I do. Pedagogical is inquiry learning. You're going to figure it out. Active learning, you're building your knowledge. And constructivism is mentally building, and then there's understanding. And then the morale is active participation, knowledge, responsibility, and participatory citizenship. So you're going out in the world and doing things. The critiques of authentic education, you have direct instruction. It's a structured, scripted approach to pedagogy. It also involves learning by taking apart piece by piece. So you're getting to the building blocks of what you're trying to learn. Much like, in my opinion, an education class where you're teaching the future teacher, why you're doing things a certain way. So you're going to take it apart and you're going to say, okay, this is this way. Such as in math, we use the binary system, and people wonder, well, you go to count to 10, and people will wonder why it's like that. Well, it's because you use the 10. You count 1 to 9, and then you go 0, 1, or 1, 0. So that's sort of taken bits by bits of that educational system.